What's up people, I'm out here in the woods with my Grants Force brook hatchet, just chopping some branches, enjoying Mother Nature. This video is not about this hatchet though, even though I like it quite a bit. This video is about the Cold Steel SRK, which I've also been using quite a bit lately. Now the SRK is probably one of the most popular affordable fixed blades on the market. For good reasons. This is a outstanding design. It's very simplistic, has like a basic clip point shape with a nice belly and an aggressive but very stout tip, and rubberized handle, these are great in colder conditions because you don't have contact with the steel, with the cold steel. And the the only thing that's not so great about these rubberized handled is that they give you blisters easier than other handle materials, and but they're very good with gloves and in colder conditions. They also wear a little bit quicker, so these handles, they will not last you a lifetime if you use your knife a lot. Now, but overall here, very simplistic construction. I mean, you only have one pin, that's also the lanyard hole to hold this handle on, and then this is a very basic shape. That's probably also why they can make it at such an incredible price. These are right around the 50 euro mark. I got mine for 40, but that's usually what you pay, between 50, sometimes 60. They tend to go up and down a little bit over the years, but overall they are always in that price range. Now, about 10 years ago, when I was looking at the SRK as an affordable survival style knife, I didn't choose the SRK, but instead went with the Steel Argonaut 800, which is a similar profile. Yeah, a little bit of a longer blade, pointier, a little bit more aggressive. The reason I went with the Argonaut 800 back then was because these were basically the same price back then. They are not anymore. This knife went all the way up to 100, and this SRK got even cheaper. So, but this one was the same price, AUS 8 steel, and then extended tang through the back. So I like this a little bit more. Not that SK5, which these are now in. They used to be in AUS 8. They also used to be made in America at some point, then they moved to Japan. Now they are. This is the Taiwanese SK5 production. Which is still not bad for the price here. So SK5, not a bad steel at all. I think we can all agree though that we would rather see this in AUS 8 just because it's a more stainless option. The SK5 usually that's on the market is rather soft and not well heat treated and too thick behind the edge, so we all tend to have a little bit of a negative experience with that steel. And spoiler alert, this knife is no different in terms of heat treatment, geometry and all that stuff, but we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, so these were basically the things that let me go with the Argonaut 800. You can also see that this knife already has a lot of wear on the rubberized handle. Also, if you baton and hit that portion here, these handles, like I said, they will not last you a lifetime. And that's also the reason I put this wrap on here, because I wanted to avoid those blisters you get when you're not using gloves. Overall though, I really like this concept of knife. Simplistic, affordable. This is a great car knife. So this knife basically lived in my car for the last 10 years. So this is what this is. It's just meant to be beaten, resharpened, and not being taken care of too much, which is again a reason the AUS 8 steel might be a little bit better here. Now I brought some other knives from my collection that are a little bit comparable to the SRK. So these are the knives that I brought that I would put in a similar category, kind of a medium-sized survival style fixed blade with a rubberized handle material. Now, I rank these in terms of their weight. So on the right side we have the heavier knives, and on the left side we have the lightest knives. So you can see the SRK is among the heavier knives in this kind of knife category. but with 214 grams, which is 7.5 ounces, I do not think it's a heavy knife for what it is. You know, it's a thick piece of steel with a robust grind. This is not too bad, and these are all within 20 grams difference, which in the knife world it can be a lot, but it's not too dramatic. Now, if we rank those knives here in terms of price, it will look a little bit different. So obviously the prices change over time, but these are sub 200 still. I think 180. This must be a 150 knife new. This is 100 now. This one used to be 70, but is more like an 80 euro knife. This is the JP Peltonen, and this is the Demko Free Rein and the Feldknieven S1, which is a convex grind. A little bit of a different story because these are all flat, and this is a hollow. Now, hollow grind or flat grind, I do like both depending on how they are done. I will note though that this hollow grind is really thick behind the edge, so the geometry on this cold steel here is rather on the thicker side, and these other knives here are all a lot thinner, a lot keener behind the edge. So especially this Peltonen here, really slicey. This one has been sharpened a ton, but it's still a lot thinner after years and years of use than this one out of the box. Demko Free Rein, not a thin knife behind the edge, but still thinner than the SRK. Yeah, this is a convex. But yeah, this is kind of the story here, is that the SRK has a hollow grind, which is not bad, but it's really thick behind the edge. Now, with a hollow grind, you will get thinner as you sharpen it, which is good because you have more lifetime in your blade. But yeah, I had some issues with the edge angle because the geometry on this knife was really, really wedgy. I was out here yesterday actually on the exact same spot, and I did some chopping and cutting with all of these knives. Now, one thing I noticed when I'm using the SRK is that it is kind of difficult for the knife to bite into material, meaning it kind of has issues with grabbing that material, and I feel like I have to use a lot more energy than in comparison to other knives. Oh, this is really noticeable. The Peltonen just goes in the material like a lot deeper. This is hard to show, but this one goes in quite significantly more with a lot less effort. So yeah, the Peltonen is definitely a better chopping knife, even though it's lighter, which is interesting, right? And the Argonaut is definitely also a better chopping knife. I'm not sure if the Peltonen might be better, but the Argonaut also hasn't been sharpened in a long time, which also speaks for these knives because the Peltonen and the Argonaut have been in use constantly and have not been touched up super well. This one is relatively new out of box, and it doesn't perform as well with a factory edge, which might have something to do with it. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, let's use the Demko knife first. The Free Rein always was a good chopper, I think, especially for the size and weight. Performs really good at these tasks. So yeah, so far all of them, check out the Feldknieven, but so far all of them, yeah, Feldknieven also works a lot better. So all of these knives are just better at chopping tasks, and I would say, I mean, obviously they are better at carving tasks because thinner geometries just cut better. That's just how it is. And you can notice that when the SRK, see how I cannot do slicing efficiently because that edge angle is so steep. Feldknieven obviously cuts better because it's a convex, and these are like very efficiently for carving. Free Rain also cuts better. Sorry for the focus, I don't know what's wrong with the focus. I think I dropped my camera once and then it started to have those focus issues. Now I should note that none of these knives here are particularly thin behind the edge. These are all not carving knives and slicing knives. These are more like survival style knives. If there is a carving knife among them, the Peltonen probably is the best. You can just feel and see a huge difference compared to the other ones. And maybe the Feldknieven. But I would even say the Peltonen cuts better than the Feldknieven. Both of these need to be sharpened though. But yeah, the Peltonen definitely the keenest geometry that we have here. Now, the reason I'm out here today again with the same knives is that I resharpened the SRK to a really nice edge this time. I did a lot of reprofiling, actually removed a lot of material just to make this whole edge angle that we have here a lot finer, because this one used to be really like a wedge, and I removed a lot of material from the side just to get a little bit more thinness behind the edge. Now, I even went overboard and brought up some water stones just to make it a nice and sticky edge. Now this one is really sharp now. I have the feeling that every time I cut something, it kind of... First, it doesn't want to bite into the material too easily, and second, it kind of wants to roll over to one side or the other very quickly. And I also have to say, this was not like a pleasant sharpening experience with this knife. It took me a really long time, and after this one I also resharpened all of these to make it a little bit more fair in the comparison, because these were all used knives before in my first test, and even though they were used, to perform better than the SRK, and now they are back to sharp, and all of these, I think, bite into the material a lot nicer, a lot easier than the SRK. But yeah, this knife especially cuts better. The steel wheel also cuts a lot nicer, and all of these came very clean off the stone, if you know what I mean. If you resharpen knives a lot, you kind of feel if the knife wants to take a good edge, and I just didn't have that experience with the SRK. In my opinion, it didn't want to take an edge as cleanly and as easily as the other ones. I will say it cuts a lot better since I resharpened it than out of box, but yeah, that's usually the case because factory edges, I mean, they suck. Factory edges, they just are not the greatest edges you can get on your knife. The SRK is a very affordable knife, but it also is not the best performing knife, in my opinion at least. The question is, can you forgive it, the lack of performance, for the price? Yeah, you probably can. This is a good beginner's knife. I mean, design-wise, this would be a great advanced knife person's knife as well, because it's just a good, solid design that is good for everybody. Now, the sheath that this knife came in was also interesting, because this knife is either too wide or the sheath is too small, but this knife doesn't fit in the sheath. As you can see, my cutting edge is fully contacting the sheath right now. I've heard this issue exists. Some people just go in and out of the sheath. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that because that ruins my edge even more. And it's already not the best edge to begin with. So I made my own sheath, and I'm way happier with my own sheath anyways. And obviously, if you have this issue, whatever retailer you buy it from, they probably will send you a new one. As I was resharpening this knife though, I kind of felt like, hey, I'm really doing a lot of reprofiling at this point and not just, you know, touching the edge up. So this made me think I'm actually, even though I only paid like 40 euros, I had to make my own sheath or go through the resending and getting a new one trouble, and had to do a lot of reprofiling. So I'm actually putting a lot of work into this knife already. A knife like the JP Peltonen is more like an 80 euro knife, but you don't have to go through that trouble of reprofiling it, because it already comes with a really nice geometry. It also comes with a really nice factory edge that you just need to touch up every once in a while. And mine even came with a really nice TRC Kydex sheath. I'm not sure if they always do this, probably not, but the Peltonen sheaths are good too. I would rather pay 30 euros more actually to get a knife that actually cuts and performs well, has a nice sheath, and all that stuff. So the SRK is just a really nice design. I think visually speaking, I like the design better than all of these. None of these are bad though, but yeah, the SRK to me is the cleanest, most perfect survival style design in this size range. It's just not a good performer as far as I'm concerned. The question is the Sanmai version thinner behind the edge? That's a question I cannot answer because I don't have that knife. So if you have one, leave it in the comments down below. That would be very helpful for a lot of us, I guess. But yeah, probably they run this a little bit thinner, I can imagine. Yeah, Demco Free Rein also a lot better, a lot more expensive though, but just a better performer. The Free Rein is just different, that it is not as tactical as some of these. It's just a more basic work knife shape. The Argonaut 800, I don't think it's worth the 100 euros that they ask for this now, but maybe you can get it on sale. It's more like a 80 to 70 euro knife, I would say. But this also cuts great after years and years of using and resharpening. This still cuts great. Tough review for me, the SRK. I really want to like it. You need to go through a lot of resharpening until you get a geometry that actually performs, and even then it still doesn't perform as nicely. So that's it for this video. I'm gonna leave it at that. Yeah, thank you guys for watching, and maybe we see each other in another video.